another Ray Bergman fly today. This is a Luzerne, very, very simple wet fly. I've done a number of wet flies in the last few weeks or so, some that are simpler patterns. They're not matched married wings, and they're not that complicated, and the Luzerne is definitely one of them. Similar to the Marlowe Buzz, there's only 3 components to this. There's a dark Claret body, a Mallard flank wing, and a black hackle. Not much to it. Great little fly to work on each of those little skills. That's uncomplicated, great trout fly, and I imagine in warm water circles, the panfish would love something like this as well. That's the Luzerne, and I'll get started tying. Start the Luzerne with my hook and the vise. This is a Mustad 3399 in a size 6. I'll debarb the hook. It has a floss body, so I'm going to start with the Danville 6/0 in white. I'm going to attach my thread about an eye length behind the eye of the hook. I'm going to wrap my thread down to just a little bit past the point of the hook, putting a nice base layer of thread on there. The body, as I mentioned, is a floss. I'm using a Danville 4-strand rayon floss. This is a dark Claret. I'm going to attach that to the hook. There is no tag or tip or tail or anything on the Luzerne. It's just the body, hackle, and wing. I'm going to wrap 4 or 5 turns down the hook shank. That will get the floss secured at the end of the body. And then I'm going to come forward, collecting that floss down to the hook shank, smoothing that out. I'm going to trim this a little bit here. It's a little longer than I want. I just want it to be about the length of the body. Now I'll apply the floss for the body. Secure that floss in and trim away the excess. As I mentioned, the Luzerne only has 3 components. So now I'll be putting in the wing, which is Mallard flank, just gray Mallard flank. I'm going to change over to my black thread. I'm using a Danville 6/0 in black to finish the fly off. I like the Mallard flank feather that on the ends of this, for the most part, it's nice and flat. This is for making the wings on these. You don't necessarily want something that's really pronounced in terms of it being rounder. I like it to be a little flatter. I'm going to peel away the fluff and these fibers here that are too wispy that I don't need for my wing. going to cut the center out about halfway down, right there. Take that out. Then I can, holding the stem of that feather in my right hand here, I'm going to fold in all of those barbs on one another to make the wing. I'm going to measure that. I want the tips just to go a little bit beyond the bend of the hook, not much. Secure that in with pinch wrap, 4 or 5 wraps to hold it nice and tight, and we'll take a look at it. See, by folding that in and having the end of that pretty much flat at the top of that hackle, when you fold that in, your wing is going to end up a little bit flat and nice and even, not as pointed. Trim away the excess. Now I'll secure all of that and tidy this up for our hackle. Just a black hackle. I'm going to use just a black rooster. Just a simple black rooster neck right here for the shorter hackles. You'll want to make certain that the barbs aren't too long on this so that when we get this wrapped in, they go to the point or just beyond the point a little bit. You could use some hen hackle if you want something a little softer on this. I'm going to isolate the tip. Tie that in with a couple of wraps, folding the tip back. Secure that down with a couple more wraps, and bring my thread down to just behind the eye of the hook. I can then take the tip of that feather, pop it off. Taking my hackle pliers, I'll get 3, maybe 4 turns of this hackle. Just depends on how full and how long those barbs are. This one will end up being just about 3. I'm getting into some of that softer hackle there that I don't want. Holding all of that back, I'll bring my thread, start applying my thread for the head and bringing it towards the back a little bit, and I can pop that off. Come back a few more turns, and then I can flatten the thread and make my whip finish to finish the head of the fly. A little head cement both sides here. And I will come back in a moment and put some black lacquer on that, and our Luzerne will be done. I mentioned it's just a simple little fly. I've done a number of these real simple wet flies lately. Wet flies don't have to be real complicated. You could, change up the floss on this or the hackle or even the wing a little bit and create something of your own if you want. But there's a lot of different patterns out there that are pretty basic and simple. that are uncomplicated, and the Luzerne is one of them. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned at least a new pattern, if not a new technique, maybe a tip or trick here and there. If you have any questions about this fly or any of the techniques used in constructing this pattern, please leave them in the comments section down below. If you go to the trouble to ask a question, I'll go to the trouble to answer it. If you'd like to help dressed irons, please share this video with your friends and anybody you think that might enjoy this pattern. Until next time, remember, it's fly tying. If you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong.